Hey everyone, welcome. Y'all on Zoom. We are in a different place this morning. We're not at my zone. We had to move next door to the Boys and Girls Club. So there's a bit of a delay in getting started, and there's no Wi-Fi here. So I am coming to you from my phone. Hopefully, can you all hear me? Can I see it there? Okay, good. Thank you. I can't see all of y'all, but I saw a couple of thumbs, so I'm gonna um, assume that it's okay for the time being anyway. I'm going to try and set my phone down so I'm not holding you. So, good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Stancavage. I'm one of the guiding teachers at Insight Community of the Desert, and I'm really happy to be with you today. I live in LA, and it was such a beautiful drive out here. It's everything's green. Everything's just that velvet green, and with a little dusting of snow on the hilltops. And so it's like, oh, this is really beautiful. So I was really had a lot of gratitude coming out here this morning. And then I get to be with y'all, which always really makes me happy because I really enjoy sitting with you. And so anybody here for the first time? Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Welcome, welcome to ICD. And this is not normally where we are, but it doesn't matter. We're here right now. Right now, it's like this. Right now, it's like this. It's on my arm. So I don't forget that it's always right now and it's always like this and have to show up. And we do a period of meditation, guided, a little bit of guidance to start, and then opportunity to ask any questions. And then we'll have some reflections on Dharma. And we've been going through the Eightfold Path. And today I'm going to talk about wise speech, which is one of my favorites. So, but that first we'll sit for a while. And before we start, I want you to just say hi to this person next to you or somebody you don't know. Introduce yourself and tell us where you're from in the chat. Say hi in the chat. Tell us where you're calling from. Wise speech. One of my favorites. We've been doing, I mentioned we've been doing the Eightfold Path, and started a couple of weeks ago, and the Eightfold Path is divided into three sections. First is wisdom, panya. It's wise view, wise intention. And then the middle section is what's called sila, which is ethical behavior, morality, this underlying, this ground. I consider it a foundation of how we move through the world. It's like it helps us live in harmony with others. The precepts come out of this section of the Eightfold Path. It's wise speech, wise action, wise livelihood. And then the last piece of the Eightfold Path is effort, mindfulness, and concentration or collectedness of mind. And so that's that. It's just everything you need to move towards liberation. And I have found it to be such a comfort when I'm in a place of like unclarity or not being sure. How do I land? Where do I land? And going back again and again to these teachings is really powerful. And they've been going on for over 2,500 years. So there's something to them. And wise speech, especially for me, has been powerful. And I'll talk to that in a bit. But it's really, it's abstaining. I think Bhikkhu Bodhi said it. It's basically abstaining from the unwholesome and cultivating the wholesome. That's kind of sila too. That's the ethical behaviors. How do I abstain from the unwholesome and not just not do something, but how do I cultivate the wholesome, which I think is really important, because otherwise we can just sit at home with our doors closed. But how do we cultivate what's wise and skillful so we can be in the world with wisdom and compassion? Really important.
And Wise Speech, I love this little this is a great book for those of you who haven't seen it. It's the classic, The Noble Eightfold Path by Bhikkhu Bodhi. It's really thin, but it's chock full. It's just simple. And he says about wise speech, speech can break lives, create enemies, and start wars. It can, or it can give wisdom, heal divisions, and create peace. This has always been so. Yet in the modern age, the positive and negative potentials of speech have been vastly multiplied by the tremendous increase in the means, speed, and range of communication. Back in the day of back in the Buddha's day, it was pretty much face to face. And if he, when it was pretty much face to face, thought this was incredibly important, then you can imagine how much more mindful we have to be in this age of technology coming at us all the time from so many directions. It's not just one-on-one. I mean, you consider 200 years ago, it took you 3 months to get news, because it traveled by horse or carriage or whatever it was. But now it's instantaneous, literally instantaneous. We keep refresh on our devices. And we're also inundated with false information. There's AI, there's bots, there's intentional gaslighting, there's lying, there's everything. That's always been around, but there's so many more mechanisms. So this capacity or this necessity for wise speech is incredibly important. Gregory Kramer also wrote a book. He's another teacher. He wrote a book called The Whole Life Path, which is wonderful. It's also about the Eightfold Path, and I recommend that one as well. And he says speech or communication itself conditions the mind. The words we say condition our mind. So it's especially important that we pay attention to the words we say. Because we can just throw away lines and things and not realize the impact it's having and how it impacts how we see the world. We kind of fall into this sloppiness sometimes, but to have clarity in our speech. And when I say speech, I also mean communication. I mean, the vast array of ways we communicate today. Emails, texts, social media, all the things. And Kramer also said, once unleashed in the world, this communication conditions the minds of others. We may not think we have an impact, but we never know how we're impacting others, either our speech, our behavior, whatever. So to recognize, this recognition that we are all interconnected. We don't operate in a vacuum as much as we think we do, we don't. And so to have this recognition and why the importance of wise speech, wise communication is huge. And we have to, and Kramer said, we have to clearly see the wrongness of wrong speech. So the Buddha in his wisdom gave us what's unwise speech and what's wise speech. So I'll just go over them. Unwise speech, false speech, slanderous, harsh, and idle chatter. And let me just go into these. False speech. And the Buddha told his son Rahula that whoever intentionally tells a lie has thrown away all their spiritual achievement. It's kind of one of the worst things you can do. And there's a quote I couldn't find, I was looking for it the other day, about monastics in all your lifetimes. Really, this is the one precept, because being truthful in our speech is one of the precepts. It's the one you should not break above all, because it's a slippery slope. You tell a lie, and then you have to remember what lie you told, and then you have to tell another lie to cover for the first lie because somebody asked a question and you go, oh, and then you have to remember who you told the lie to. Don't do that to yourself. So it's a slippery slope. The Buddha also told his son to think before we speak And this I find is really helpful because sometimes I have to say something, but I need to write down what I need to say so I can be precise and not just kind of reactive in the moment. So really reflect before you say something. While you're saying it, it's important. And if you're saying something that really you shouldn't be saying, be willing to stop in the middle. Have you ever had that out of body experience where you're watching yourself and you're going, oh, I shouldn't be saying this? Be willing to stop. And then after you've spoken, reflecting on maybe what you said. And I don't mean to get into a rumination about the conversation you had with the guy in line at the grocery store yesterday. I mean, when we're really having these conversations, really important. And we see, I mean, we know, I don't have to illustrate how harmful unwise speeches or false speeches. We see it every day. We're all impacted by it. Every single one of us is impacted by false speech right now. It's caused so much harm and violence and destruction, and all these pieces of unwise speech are happening. And Bhikkhu Bodhi also said, false speech is disrupted to social cohesion. Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I was thinking it's verbal violence. It's verbal violence. And he said it's a serious moral transgression. I skipped it. I'm getting into slander. Slander. Oh, slander is this is Bhikkhu Bodhi said, slanderous speech is intended to create enmity. The intention is to cause division. It's like that person, blah, blah, blah. And it's especially bad when it's false. It's compounded because if you say something that's not true, but you don't know that, you're passing on something, you're saying something and you don't realize that that's not as bad as intentionally lying. That's obviously a different class. So slander, talking garbage about people, it's like one of the things you can do is investigate what's driving this. This is where this curiosity comes in practice. It's like, okay, I want to say this about this person. What's underneath that? What's driving that? What's the intention behind that? Really important to investigate, not just reactivity, but really clarity, cultivating clarity around how we're moving through the world. And the opposite of slander is kind speech, and it promotes harmony. It's not like la, 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 everything's great, but it's a way of being which is lovely and kind, even when you're saying difficult things. And then harsh speech is really very along those lines. It's abusive, it's insulting, it's sarcastic. And there's internal harsh speech as well as external harsh speech. What's it like inside your head when you've done something you didn't want to do, or you did, it's like we have these old tapes that just play, you shouldn't have done that, you blah, blah. And we don't even pay attention. It's this thing that's running. And we have to recognize that's harsh speech too. We don't get to practice harsh speech with ourselves. We don't get to say things to ourselves that we would never say to another person, or that we would ever allow anyone to say to us. So be cautious. I've had to tell people people have had to tell me to stop saying things, like when I was really tired, I say, I'm sorry, I'm really stupid. I'm tired. I don't know what you have to repeat that. And they're like, you can't say that. That's harsh. I'm like, oh, okay. We get to be nice to ourselves. And if that's hard, that's another thing you get to investigate. So, and then idle chatter. Oh, harsh speech is also reactive in the moment, because I found myself all week. I drive a lot in around LA for places I have to go, and traffic is just traffic, and people are not always nice to me in traffic because it's me. And I found the things I was saying to people, and I'm like, oh, look, this is harsh speech. And if I am committed to this, can I even roll that back? But it's in the moment, it's reactive. It's reactive. And we want to learn to pause. Pause. This is never and this is not anything I would ever tell anybody in face to face. And then idle chatter. Idle chatter is this just blah, 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 blah. Because it's pointless talk that only stirs up the defilements of greed and aversion and delusion. And there's oh, please tell me I have it. Yes. There's a sutta where the Buddha talks to the monastics about what is idle chatter and what one should not talk about. And so let me read this. Talking about kings, robbers, ministers of state, armies, alarms, and battles, food and drink, clothing, furniture, garlands, and scents, as in smells, relatives, vehicles, villages, towns, cities, the countryside, women and heroes, the gossip of the street and the well, tales of the dead, philosophical discussions of the past and future, the creation of the world and the sea, and talk of whether things exist or not. He abstains from talking about lowly topics such as these. So, but that's I love that because that's an invitation. That's the Buddha's teaching to monastics, and none of us are monastics, but it's a recognition of, oh, there's a lot of stuff that is not necessary. He's telling them they should be focused on the Dharma. Should be focused on the teachings, not getting off on these tangents. And it's not that we're not going to go out and have coffee with friends and chit chat. It's just really being mindful. I was talking about this the other day. I used to smoke, and I'd take a break we'd have break time at work, and you'd be standing around in the parking lot just smoking and talking to people and going, why am I talking to these people and what are we talking about? That's like idle chatter. So to have bringing mindfulness to our communication, bringing mindfulness to how we show up in all our conversations. Because when we're idle, when we're mindless, idle chatter is mindless chatter. We're not thinking. So to be present is really important. So then moving on to, okay, we got that. What's wise speech? What is the invitation to should we be showing up? And wise speech, this is what we're all very familiar with. Is it timely? Yeah. Is it the right time to say what we need to say? Because sometimes, I want to blurt it out and it might not be appropriate in the moment, but I have to say this. You need to know this. It's like, maybe I can pause. Maybe there's another time to say it. Maybe not in front of everybody. So, or when the person is more capable of hearing it. Is it true? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer, but sometimes we actually have to reflect on that. Which is, of course, that points back to the first of unwise speech, lying, false speech. Is it gentle? How are we saying it? Are we saying in a way that the other person can hear it? Because we can say something that's true and necessary and at the right time, but say it in a way that they just get really defensive and harsh. I mean, shut down. So how do we say it that's gentle? Is it beneficial? And this is really, and I like to say, is it necessary? I think this is really a good reflection. Is what I'm going to say or what I want to communicate necessary? Is it going to help this other person, or is it beneficial or wise or skillful in any way? How many times I have used this on social media, so many times, or in emails or in texting. I'm getting ready and I'm like, is this necessary? And so much of the time it's not. And so I pull back. I don't have to go down that road. Really helpful to reflect. And then what's our intention? Is our intention grounded in kindness and compassion? Because we can say something that's true, it's helpful, it's the right time, we can say it with kind words, but our underlying intention can maybe not be true or beneficial. Maybe we're manipulative. What keeps coming up for me is like, because I've been there, like, oh, it would be so, you're this, and with a self-serving intention in there. So just reflecting when we move through the world. And Buddhists sometimes, or Buddhist practitioners sometimes think that wise speech means not saying anything unwanted or that the other person's not going to want to hear. And what ends up happening is just this big area of not saying anything and spiritually bypassing and, oh, I can't say that because it might be disruptive. And it's like, well, sometimes things need to be said. And it's really important that we learn how to have those communications. Unwelcome feedback might be necessary. If I'm doing something that is inappropriate, if I'm talking about sarcasm, I've probably shared this a lot. I've grown up in New York, and sarcasm was a way of life. It's how we communicate. A lot of the time, I was really good at it. I was really funny. It was a way for me to fit in. And I had somebody, when I moved out here, sarcasm is less a way of life. And I had somebody tell me once that I made her cry. And I'm like, oh, so that's feedback that I need to hear. I may not like it, but it has helped me really make an effort to not be so sarcastic. It's taken, I started this in the 90s, and I'm still working on it. I'm a lot better than I used to be, but I'm not there yet because I'm not dead. And so I'm still going with that. So this invitation to be true, to say what needs to be said, is so vital. I think today especially, it's really important that we're honest, we're grounded, but we say it kindly. I think that's also incredibly important. So we use, as I said earlier, all these factors of the Eightfold Path support each other, and wise speech is supported by wise view, seeing clearly, recognizing greed and aversion and delusion, and wise intention. Wise intention I think Beth taught that last week, was about, grounded in compassion and kindness and letting go of what doesn't serve, renunciation, being willing to let go of what is not skillful and wise, and greeting the world with friendliness and compassion and kindness, especially if someone's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. People need to, saying what needs to be said is incredibly important. And mindfulness is also really an underlying foundation to all of this. We have to have an awareness. There has to be an understanding of how this, of what we're doing, grounded, present, and pausing. I think I can't remember. Oh, there's a teacher I used to sit with years and years ago, and he used to say, pause 10 seconds before you speak or respond. And it was like, I'm a jumper inner, so I will actually jump in before you finish talking. So I beg forgiveness in advance for when I do that to you, because I'm sure I will. So pausing though, because if you've ever, I've tried this when I have paused sometimes when talking to people after they've finished, and then recognize they haven't finished. They're just pausing to take a breath, and then they want to continue. And it's so that allows there's spaciousness there. that you're creating when you're not just like reactive. There's a mindfulness, there's a clarity. So yeah, pausing 10 seconds before you speak and after they finish, and see what happens with that. Talking again about the saying difficult things and learning. There was a story. I can't remember where the story comes from, but there was a person in a community, in a sangha, who was really annoying and got on everybody's nerves, and the community just chased him out. And then the main teacher invited him back. And everybody's like, why did you invite that guy back? He's so annoying. And it's like, because you need to learn how to be with those people who annoy you. That's a big problem. I don't like you. I'm going to get rid of you. We dehumanize people based on criteria that shifts and changes. That may not be, we have all been impacted by that. We see that right now happening all the time. So to take a step back from that, because you think, oh, in speech, oh, them, blah, blah, blah. It, as Kramer said, our speech conditions our thinking, and it conditions the people who hear it, which is why wise communication is so vital. It's so important. And I was talking yesterday, I did a half day yesterday, and I taught a half day, and I'm teaching one next month, commercial. Anyway, I was talking about being in an airport, and I've told this story before too. And, you know, when we wish people well, this greeting the world with kindness and friendliness and wanting it to be part of how we move through the world. And in my head at airports, I have been very judgmental about how many suitcases people have, and why they're wearing heels when they're traveling or whatever. You know, I won't see, I'm already judging all the people I've seen at airports over the years. And then I stopped one time a few years ago. I was on a layover somewhere, and all of a sudden I went, oh, I love you. I hope you all arrive safely at your destination. Mm-hmm. There's a shift, and you can feel it somatically when you're like, and all of a sudden, oh, I care. There's a real distinct difference in how we feel. And that's why even internal speech is important. Internal speech towards ourselves, internal speech towards others, incredibly important. So I am still practicing with wise speech around the sarcasm, and also growing up in a family that it felt that people didn't want to hear what you had to say if it wasn't what they wanted to hear. So I learned to be quiet my whole life and not say what had to be said, which is very detrimental to a person's ability to move through the world. And so I've had to learn with this, okay, I need to say what needs to be said. And you feel that tightening in your body when you have to do something you don't want to do. And I will practice. I will write it, I'll practice, and I'll greet that tightness in the body, that feeling that's uncomfortable, and say, hi, fear, or whatever it is. Hi, you're here. Of course you're here. This is scary. And we're going to do it anyway. Have a seat. What do you need? Have a seat. And then say what needs to be said. And it gets, I still hate it, but I'll do it more. So this is how these teachings actually impact how we move through the world. If we're committed to saying the truth and saying what needs to be said, this is how we go, and allowing the Buddha's wisdom to guide us, taking refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, because sometimes we have to check in with our friends, our trusted, our Kalyanamitta, and say, what do you think? about this? Can you role play with me? I took a class in nonviolent communication about a year and a half ago with R&J Sofer, who's a wonderful teacher up at Spirit Rock. And it's really, really helpful to ground into, okay, what's appropriate, what's wise, what's skillful. So the only other thing I'll say is start where you are. I can't start anywhere else. Reflect on these teachings and say, okay, what is this? Is this something that I'm struggling with? Is this making sense for me or any of these pieces? With all of these teachings, we start where we are. What's causing us suffering today? Where's today's dukkha? That's where we show up. That's the teaching. That's the practice we bring to the moment. So thank you so much, my friends, for your kind attention. And now I'm happy to hear any comments or answer any questions, but also mercy because I have to repeat it for the other. So be kind. Yes, please. Thank you. So I thank you everyone for being here. Am I making announcements? Are you making announcements?
Do a combination.
Okay. Just because so just a couple announcements. I mentioned that next month, there's a half day on February 28th. We're doing a half day. So you might, if you're on our mailing list, we should have gotten the email about that. If not, you can ask me or Amy or, and then we have a retreat at Big Bear at the end of March with the teachers. Me, Jokai, Ian, and Valerie are going to be teaching that. And so that info, I don't know if it's on the website yet, but you should have gotten an email about it, or you can go to the Big Bear website and find it. And then all the other classes, and we should be back in the other building next week. And I thank you folks for your patience.
Just a reminder about generosity and giving back to whatever has nourished us and cultivated these feelings of wholesomeness, if you will. The baskets in the back to give Dharma. So give as you can. And there are other ways that you can give as well. So for example, volunteering. There's some really simple ways that you can show up here just 15 minutes before we start to help set up, and stay 15 minutes at the end, and you can pick dates that work with your schedule. It's really easy. There's a sign-up sheet in back. And one other request would be giving your review of the sangha. So if any of you are tech savvy and you want to go onto Google and just write a review for Insight Community of the Desert, that's really lovely.
You can write a review for ICD on Google.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, friends. And you can go on the website to offer Donna. And let me just read this final thing. Oh, you can leave if you want, but just one last thing. This is this beautiful piece that Ian wrote, going forth, our merit. Going forth into this world, so in need of light, may I bring all the kindness and wisdom I embody to each being in each situation that I meet. May the power of my practice today strengthen my resolve to be an agent of peace and justice in this world. Going forth together into this world so in need of light, may we together bring all the kindness and wisdom we embody to each being in each situation that we meet. May the power of our practice today strengthen our resolve to be agents of peace and justice in this world. We dedicate our practice for the liberation of all beings, the great, the small, the wise, the ignorant, the powerful, and the powerless. May all beings be liberated from sorrow and loss, hatred and injustice, scarcity and want, and every form of suffering. May our practice today be a prayer for peace, and may it benefit all beings without exception. Thank you so much, my friends, and I will see you next time. Much love.
Thank you.